Okay, good morning. It's Monday morning. I hope you had a great weekend. I had an awesome weekend. I'm a little sore. Played in the tennis tournament this weekend. Hey, made it to the semifinals. Got beat there by 1 point. I had 2 match points and missed them. But it was a great thing. I'm sore, still trying to recover. Went to a good church yesterday. Heard a really good message. Of all things, I got there, hadn't been to a local church in a while. I went there. What do you think they talked about? Giving money to. Actually, it was a great biblical message. I was really impressed. Uh, Listen, you know what we're going to talk about today? We're going to continue on in the book of John, and we're going to talk about how to deal with legalistic bullies. Okay, let's pick up where we left last time. Remember, there's this guys at this water where all these sick people would hang around waiting to get in. This is the belief they had at a certain time when the water stirred. They believed that an angel was stirring. The first one in would get healed. Well, this guy's been sick over 30 years. Okay, and Jesus healed him. Problem was, and let's go back to the verse, is it happened on a particular day. Okay, and if we're going to pick it up right here in the end of verse 9b, it says, and immediately the man became well and took up his pallet and began to walk. Okay, he picked up his bed. Okay, now it was the Sabbath on that day. Oh boy, it was the Sabbath. You know, and guess who's watching? All these legalistic bullies. Who are legalistic bullies? They're people that are in position of authority that want to use their position not to serve you, but to lord over you. Biden's that way, Trudeau's that way, Putin's that way, almost every dictator in the world is that way. They're just a great documentary if you want to watch them on, I saw it on YouTube on Franco, who was the dictator in Spain, and how they had passed a law about an amnesty law that you're forgiven for every crime you've ever done when you were in position of authority, or they're trying to reverse that law now, which I think they should. And these people can be brought to justice. They murdered a lot of people under their regime. But you also have Mussolini, who my mother lived under. You have Hitler. You got the Pope, who abuses his authority, and a succession of all of them that have abused their authority. These are all legalistic bullies. You got people that are your boss, employees, that are under legalistic bullies that use their position of authority to lord over you. You got people in the military that way, and in the police force. Any place where a person can possibly hold any position of authority, there's always the danger of him abusing that authority to lord over you. You know, it's interesting, but Jesus told the disciples, and they were arguing about being great, and he says, listen, there's nothing wrong with being great. Just don't do it like the world does. They lord down. He says, you need to serve up. So what did he do? He took off his robe, which is a symbol of authority, and he began to wash the disciples' feet. He was demonstrating what real greatness is. Real greatness is serving, not trampling over an old woman with a horse. Those Royal Canadian Police, and I've met some of them are really good people. I used to play tennis with one guy. He was awesome, but they can be pretty tough too. And if they abuse their authority, they're wrong. They're going to stand before God someday, if not in this life. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit at the end here how to deal with them. Okay, I've had a lot of experience with dealing with bullies, legalistic bullies, more so as a Christian than before I became a Christian. First time I really had I was on mission group in 1975. I was overseas, and we were in Belgium. And we have been all week long, we have been going up and down the streets and marketplaces, preaching, handing out gospel tracts. We were exhausted. So Sunday morning, we went to service, and then we went swimming. until old Legalistic Bully showed up and demanded that we all get out of the pool because we were breaking the Sabbath, he said. Okay, and a lot of us, didn't believe what he was saying, but we had to get out because he was telling us that we were going to offend all the villagers. Okay. I had another time when I brought a bunch of inner city kids to a Bible college just to show them around, and they had a student union, and so they had brought some cards and wanted to play some card games and stuff, and so they were playing card games. I'm sitting there, and one guy come over, one of the leaders there at the school, and he said that they could not play cards because it was sinful. Meanwhile, they're over at another table playing Rook. Now, if you know what Rook is a card game. They distinguish one card game from another. Okay. I've had so many different, even when I was in seminary. When I was in seminary, I used to work as a coach at a Christian school. And I'd have to study, go to school, then run to the school and coach PE and then coach various sports and all that. So we're in basketball season. So I'm thinking about my players and all that. And while I was listening to a message, I think it was Dr. Pentecost, and he was going on, and I was diagramming plays on a pad of paper that we were going to use that night. And after class, this guy followed me all the way into the student center. And he began to run me down for doodling in class. I asked him, I said, hey, I wasn't doodling, I was drawing plays. I said, by the way, what's your grade point average? And then I told him mine. I was an honor student. And I said, I have the ability to do a lot of different things at the same time. He was a bully. He was a legalistic bully. Pharisees were that way. And Jesus is about to deal with them. Okay, let's look and see what happens. Let's get back into the message. Okay, now, it was on the Sabbath that he heals this guy. Therefore, the Jews were saying to him who was cured, it is the Sabbath, and it is not permissible for you to carry your pallet. But he answered them, he who made me well was the one who said to me, take up your pallet and walk. And they asked him, who is the man who said to you, take up your pallet and walk? But he who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped away while there was a crowd in that place. Afterwards, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, behold, you have become well. Do not sin anymore so that nothing worse may befall upon you. Apparently, he did something that caused him to get in that condition. And Jesus warning him, don't do something else, or you may find there's consequences to sin, Okay? And for this reason, the Jews were persecuting Jesus because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. But he answered them, my Father is working until now, and I myself am working. For this cause, therefore, the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because he was not only breaking the Sabbath according to them, but was also calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Okay. Intent. What is the Sabbath? The whole reason for the Sabbath is God created the heaven and earth in 6 days, and then he rested in the seventh. The Sabbath was designed for man, not man for the Sabbath. Can you understand that? You know what it is? It's a day off. That's all it is. God says, hey, you work, you need some time off. You need to rest your body. Spend some time with your family and your friends. Spend some time, in prayer or whatever you want to do. You need to relax. Just takes time. But it is never designed to keep you from doing something good. Jesus healed this man. These heartless, Pharisee, legalistic bullies, they didn't care about this man being healed. They just cared about maintaining their law, which they didn't even keep. You see all these hypocrites, these politicians they're now getting pictures of them wearing their mask in all these different places, yet they're trying to enforce that on children. You can't be a worse bully than that. Let me tell you something. If you give in to these bullies, you're nothing but a coward as far as I'm concerned. Okay? And not a very bright one either. Okay? Because you're not using the common sense and discernment that God has given us. Okay? Don't give in to them. Okay? Okay, let me continue with this story here. Now, first of all, how do you recognize, it's real important that we do something here now. We need to recognize a distinction between a legalistic bully and a weaker brother. A weaker brother we don't want to offend. Okay, like, let's say drinking. The Bible doesn't speak against drinking. It does speak against being drunk. But if you drink in the presence of an alcoholic who's someone that has been recovered from that, and he's tempted and he's weak, and he says, look, please don't drink in front of me. It really bothers me. You know, and you do it anyway, you're a bully too. Okay, because you are abusing your liberty and your right as a Christian to cause your brother to stumble. Okay, now, if this person doesn't have a problem with drinking, but he wants to use his authority to tell you what you can and cannot do, you just ignore him. Okay, now when I was an early Christian young, I didn't understand all that. It used to confuse me a lot. Okay, so you need to recognize that you have to see whether this is truly a weaker brother or sister, and we don't want to cause them to stumble, okay? But recognize is that God never gave us the Sabbath so that we would come under its scrutiny. He gave it to us for our benefit. Look, if you need a day off, take it. If you need to go and spend some time on a retreat, even Jesus had to do that. Take a little vacation. We even have sabbaticals now where people that work and for long times, like I did one, and you go and you take a whole year off and you just relax and get refocused and get a new vision. And God wants us to do that. You got to remember, the law was not created for us to keep it. We can't. It's impossible. Jesus says you got to be perfect in all of them. Okay? The law was given to us to be a mirror so that we could see our defect in it and recognize that we got a problem so that we can come to God and say, God, I can't do this. And God says, yeah, I know, but I'm going to do it for you and through you. Okay? You got to recognize intent when Jesus is talking. These Pharisees and these leaders did not recognize it at all. Okay? They not only were trying to follow a law real strictly and seeing who else was or was not, they were even inventing new ones. They were adding to the laws all these different details and so forth. Okay, so you got to recognize what legalism. Now, let me define legalism, and also define Christian liberty. Legalism is trying to do God's will, your way, in your strength. That's what legalism is. Okay, it's not a system necessarily of do's and don'ts, because the Bible is full of do's and don'ts. Okay, read through Colossians. So that's not what it is. The Bible says to honor your mother and your father. Okay, that's not a legalistic thing to do. It's a good thing to do. All the law that God has given us was given us to help us. It was to serve us. It's not so that we are come under the bondage of the law. And a lot of these Jews never understood that. It was to give you freedom, and it was to benefit you. Okay, and the Old Testament says, do not scar, tattoo yourself. Okay, that was a clear intent of God. His reason was, and a lot of Christians today don't understand it, it's because he wanted you to be different. He didn't want you to be like all these pagan nations that were scarring and marking themselves up and piercing their bodies with all kind of jewelry and different things. He says, I want you to be different because I want you to be unique. You were created in my image. I want you to reflect me. That was his intent. Okay? The intent has never changed. Okay? The way God deals with us changes from time to time. Okay? The severity of the consequences may change. Okay? So if a young person in the Old Testament disobeyed his parents, he was taken out to the gate and stoned to death. Now he just may be fellowship sent to his room and lose some privileges, but God's intent is still the same. He wants us to do that. He wants us to honor our parents. He doesn't want us to look like the world, you know? He wants us to take a day of rest, but for our benefit, not because it's going to make us better or not. Let me tell you something. Salvation is free. You can't do anything to earn it. It's a gift. Second free thing is you can't do anything to maintain it. That also is free. Okay? Doing or not doing doesn't make you more holy or more spiritual. You're already as holy and as spiritual as you're ever going to be the moment you put your trust in Christ. That's what the whole exchange life is all about. You've been transferred from darkness into light. Now walk in that light. Problem is, we got a sin nature. And that sin nature is apt to show up at any time. That's why God says in the New Testament, if you walk in the Spirit, you will not fulfill the deeds of the flesh. And one of the ugliest deeds of the flesh is legalism. And that's imposing your will to try to get somebody to do God's thing your way. And that's what these Pharisees were doing. Jesus is addressing this very strongly by healing this guy. He didn't just pick any day, he picked the Sabbath. And he picked it in a public place because he's trying to make a point here. And so, you know, Christian liberty is the same thing. Yeah, I have people, Christians all the time. You know, oh, I'm free. I can do. I know I'm going to go to heaven. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, okay, you're free. But you're going to lose rewards in heaven. You may cause other people to stumble. You're never really going to know what God's plan and will was for your life because you spent it doing your own thing. Okay? You're going to lose out. Okay? So you really got a choice. You obey, and it's real simple. And I say, first of all, when I deal with Christian bullies, legalistic bullies, I call them out. I tell them to their face, you're wrong. That's not God's intent. Okay? I use apologetics to do that. Okay? If you don't stand up to them, they go and do it to other people. Okay? So I not only defend myself from them, I defend others. Okay? Second thing, don't give in to them. When you give in to them, all you're doing is encouraging them to do more. Okay, the first Bible college I went to was the most legalistic school I'd ever been to. There's only one person there. Well, there were a few more, but one greatly there that really ministered me, and that was Dr. Elsie Fix. But she was surrounded by legalistic bullies. I can tell you some of the things that, you know, I was divorced when I was 18, 19, when I was in the military. Yet I had these presidents and dean of college tell me that I couldn't even look at a girl, you know, and yet, you know, they did me rough hard, you know, and they used to say the worst things to me, that I didn't belong there and all that, and different things. And Miss Elsie, and I'd go to her office and I'd tell her about it, and she would encourage me, don't listen to them, you know, God brought you here and all that. And, you know, both those guys ended up getting divorced. Kid, their lives fell apart. You know, be sure where you stand, unless you're going to fall. Okay, I don't try to impose legalism on anybody. I will impose truth. There's a difference. Okay, if somebody tries to tell me that Jesus wasn't born of a virgin, I won't stand up to that. You know, so in those cases, you got to pick your battlegrounds. You know, what are things that are really important? We better not let this thing go, because it can, if that was true, then that has a correlating effects on many other theologies, and we don't want to do that. The last thing is, how to deal with legalistic bullies is you need to stay true to God's word and his intent. Okay, one of the problems we have with our government is that they've lost the original intent of the framers when it came to talking about a separation of church and state. It never was meant to be a separation from God's word and his holy authoritative standard. What they didn't want was a state-run church like they had in England. Okay? But you cannot separate law from morality. It's not possible. Okay? Somebody has to decide what's right and wrong. And God already did that for us. Okay? For our benefit. Not that it's going to make us better or not, but so that we can live peacefully, so that we can live with a blessing, so that we can enjoy the many good things that he has for us. But you get these idiots in charge, you give them a little authority, and that's why, any person with absolute authority, that absolute authority will eventually corrupt. That's why they put in the system of checks and balances, so that wouldn't happen, but it's not working the way it used to anymore. Okay, Christians need to stand up to these bullies. You need to stand up to Biden and Harris and Schumer and Schimmel or whatever, Trudeau, whatever his name is. Don't give in to them, because all you do is encourage them to do more. Also, the medical schools and police officers, don't give in to them. You know what's right and what's wrong. If this is going contrary to your sanctified common sense, don't be a coward. God will make a way for you. Stand up for what's right. Someday you'll be really thankful you did that. And I know this, your kids will be, and your grandkids. Okay. God bless you all. We're going to pick up on this tomorrow. It doesn't end. He's going to deal with this some more and some more and some more. And they're going to try to kill him. Okay? Be aware that when you stand up to these bullies, there's some consequences. But I'd rather pay the price for that than be displeasing to God. Okay. Y'all have a great day. God bless you all.